I was helping a customer when my husband texted, "I'm leaving you. I emptied our account. Have fun." My hands started shaking, but a strange calm washed over me. He didn't know about my secret folder, the one with copies of every transaction he'd ever made. Financial betrayal doesn't announce itself with warning signs. It slips into your life disguised as trust. For years, Sarah had shared everything with her husband: bank accounts, credit cards, investment portfolios. She believed in their partnership completely, never questioning his role managing their finances while she built her small business. The foundation of their relationship seemed unshakable, built on 15 years of shared dreams and mutual respect. But beneath the surface, invisible cracks were forming as he made decision after decision without her knowledge, creating a facade of stability that would soon collapse entirely. Those cracks became visible the day her card was declined while buying supplies for her shop. Confused and embarrassed, she called the bank only to discover their joint account had been drained. The customer service representative's voice softened with pity as she explained the withdrawals had happened gradually over months, culminating in a final large transfer that morning. When Sarah tried calling her husband, his phone went straight to voicemail. His office claimed he'd taken personal leave. Their home showed signs of hasty packing, his essential belongings gone without explanation or goodbye, leaving only the weight of unknown debt behind. What her husband didn't realize was that Sarah had been quietly documenting their financial life for years, not out of suspicion, but organization, a habit formed after watching her parents lose everything in a business dispute without proper records. She'd kept digital copies of statements, transactions, property documents, and tax returns, systematically backing everything up each month. This meticulous record-keeping wasn't paranoia but prudence, a skill she'd developed through watching others' misfortunes. The very habit her husband had occasionally teased her about would become her strongest defense against his betrayal. The text message he sent was meant to be the period ending their story, a cruel punctuation mark designed to leave her helpless and confused. Instead, it became the first line of her comeback. While staring at those cold words on her screen, something shifted in Sarah's perspective. The initial shock transformed into clarity as she realized she possessed something invaluable: information. With trembling fingers, she opened her laptop and accessed her backup drives, beginning the process of understanding exactly what she was facing and how she might find her way forward. The true extent of financial betrayal often remains hidden until you start digging beneath the surface. When Sarah began examining her records, patterns emerged that had been invisible during their marriage. Transactions to unfamiliar accounts, cash withdrawals that couldn't be explained by their lifestyle, and mysterious recurring payments formed a troubling constellation of deception. Each discovery felt like another betrayal, another moment where trust had been weaponized against her. She noticed how carefully he'd calibrated his withdrawals, just small enough to avoid triggering her attention, just frequent enough to build substantial sums over time. Her documentation revealed more than just missing money. It exposed a calculated strategy spanning years. Her husband had been gradually transferring funds into separate accounts, some in names she didn't recognize, others in offshore locations. The preparation required for such elaborate financial maneuvering suggested this wasn't an impulsive decision, but a long-planned exit strategy. Investment accounts she believed were growing for their retirement had been systematically emptied and redirected. Properties they jointly owned had second mortgages she'd never authorized, with signature pages that contained forgeries so similar to her handwriting that she momentarily doubted her own memory. While the financial detective work consumed her days, nights brought different struggles. Sleep became elusive as Sarah's mind raced through questions without answers. Why had he done this? Had anything in their relationship been real? The crushing weight of betrayal manifested physically. Appetite disappeared, concentration fractured, and the simple act of getting dressed each morning required monumental effort. Friends offered well-intentioned but hollow reassurances. "You'll be better off, and time heals all wounds." But Sarah knew recovery wouldn't come from platitudes. It would emerge from something more concrete: accountability. And for that she needed professional help. Rather than drowning in emotion, Sarah channeled her energy into strategic action. She compiled her documentation into organized files and made appointments with 3 specialists: a forensic accountant, a family law attorney with experience in financial fraud, and a financial advisor specializing in recovery planning. Each expert expressed shock at both the extent of her husband's deception and the thoroughness of her documentation. The forensic accountant was particularly impressed. "Most people in your situation come to me with nothing but confusion. You've already done half my job." For the first time since receiving that devastating text, Sarah felt a flicker of something resembling power. Her husband had taken her money, but he hadn't taken her resilience or resourcefulness. The legal process of untangling financial deception requires patience, strategy, and emotional fortitude. Sarah's attorney explained that while her documentation provided a strong foundation, they needed to follow precise protocols to ensure everything would stand up in court. They filed emergency motions to freeze remaining assets and prevent further transfers. They submitted formal requests for financial discovery, forcing her husband to disclose all accounts regardless of location. Each legal step was like placing a stone in a path leading toward justice. Slow but steady progress that required attention to detail and procedural precision. Meanwhile, the forensic accountant uncovered the breadth of her husband's scheme. He had created a web of financial movements designed to obscure his tracks, but her documentation provided crucial timeline evidence. When combined with subpoenaed bank records, a comprehensive picture emerged of funds flowing through various channels before disappearing into investments and purchases under different names. The accountant identified several business entities established in states with favorable privacy laws, all leading back to her husband through careful analysis. His systematic approach to hiding assets had been clever, but it left behind a trail of evidence that would ultimately undermine his plan. Sarah's financial advisor helped her understand her immediate priorities while building toward long-term recovery. They created an emergency budget addressing her current reality while planning strategic moves to reclaim what had been taken. The advisor established new accounts with enhanced security protocols and monitoring systems that would alert Sarah to any unusual activity. Together, they prioritized which debts needed immediate attention and which could be addressed through the legal process. The advisor introduced Sarah to successful entrepreneurs who had rebuilt after similar betrayals, creating an informal support network of people who truly understood her situation and could offer practical advice based on experience rather than sympathy. Parallel to these professional relationships, Sarah maintained operations at her small business despite the financial and emotional turmoil. Her shop became both sanctuary and symbol, proof that she could create value independently of her husband's deception. Regular customers noticed her strained expression, but not the methodical way she was rebuilding her life between sales and inventory management. Each evening after closing, she would review the day's progress in all areas: business operations, legal developments, financial reclamation steps, and even her emotional well-being. This structured approach prevented her from becoming overwhelmed by any single aspect of her recovery journey. The pivotal moment in financial recovery often comes when you transition from reactive to proactive strategies. Sarah had spent weeks responding to her husband's actions, but now she began implementing offensive moves designed to reclaim control. Her attorney filed motions not just for division of assets, but for compensation related to financial fraud and forgery. Her meticulous records made a compelling case for punitive damages beyond simple restitution. They pursued legal attachments on properties purchased through shell companies, effectively freezing these assets pending court determination. The legal strategy shifted from defense to assertive recovery, placing her husband and his accomplices on notice that consequences were coming. Investigation revealed her husband hadn't acted entirely alone. A mutual friend with financial industry connections had facilitated some of the more sophisticated aspects of the scheme. This discovery brought another painful layer of betrayal, but also provided additional avenues for recovery. Sarah's legal team expanded their scope to include this accomplice, adding professional ethics violations to the growing list of complaints. The friend's financial firm, concerned about reputation damage, began internal investigations, and froze additional accounts connected to Sarah's husband. This domino effect created pressure from multiple directions, significantly limiting his access to the hidden funds. Digital forensics experts recovered deleted communications from cloud backups of family devices, revealing conversations that contradicted her husband's initial claims about asset locations. These electronic breadcrumbs provided validation for Sarah's suspicions about specific transactions and strengthened her legal position considerably. The experts uncovered password-protected documents detailing offshore accounts and investment structures designed to hide marital assets. Perhaps most valuably, they found evidence of her husband's true financial position, considerably more substantial than what he had disclosed in preliminary legal filings, effectively catching him in deliberate misrepresentations to the court. Sarah's business began thriving despite the ongoing personal challenges, partly because she channeled her determination into creative problem-solving. She expanded product lines that had proven profitable and streamlined operations to maximize efficiency. Regular customers brought friends, expanding her client base through word of mouth. A local business publication featured her shop in an article about resilient small businesses, bringing new attention without revealing her private struggles. The growing success provided both financial support during legal proceedings and psychological reinforcement that she could thrive independently. Her husband had believed she would collapse without him, but each successful business day proved otherwise. The psychological journey through financial betrayal follows unpredictable patterns of grief, anger, and gradual empowerment. Sarah discovered that emotional recovery didn't follow a linear path, but moved in cycles that sometimes aligned with developments in her legal case. Days of confidence and determination would be followed by overwhelming doubt or anger seemingly without trigger. A therapist specializing in betrayal trauma helped her recognize these cycles as normal responses rather than setbacks. Together they developed techniques for acknowledging difficult emotions without becoming derailed by them. The therapist introduced concepts like compartmentalization, not as avoidance, but as a productive way to function while processing complex feelings. Financial independence became Sarah's most powerful form of emotional healing. Each decision made without input from her husband, whether business-related or personal, reinforced her capability and judgment. She began rebuilding her credit score through strategic small purchases that she paid off immediately. She took financial literacy courses that gave her deeper understanding of concepts her husband had previously handled for her. Knowledge replaced dependency, creating a foundation stronger than what existed before. Financial advisors introduced her to investment strategies appropriate for her risk tolerance and goals, helping her make informed choices rather than delegating these decisions as she had in her marriage. Community connections provided crucial support during the darkest periods of Sarah's recovery journey. A women's business alliance offered practical assistance like referrals to ethical financial professionals and speaking opportunities that positioned her as an expert in her field rather than a victim. An informal dinner group of women who had experienced similar betrayals became a place where she could speak honestly without judgment or advice giving. These relationships offered something professional services couldn't provide: genuine understanding from people who had walked similar paths and emerged stronger. Their success stories became beacons during periods when progress seemed impossible. Sarah's relationship with money transformed fundamentally through this experience. What had been a utilitarian tool became something more nuanced, a reflection of values, priorities, and self-worth. She learned to distinguish between true financial security and the appearance of prosperity that had characterized her marriage. Her new financial structure emphasized transparency, with clear systems for tracking income, expenses, investments, and growth. She established multiple safeguards, including regular audits by trusted professionals and monitoring services that would alert her to unusual activity. These weren't measures born from paranoia, but from wisdom, protecting the new life she was carefully constructing. The legal system moves at its own pace, regardless of how prepared you might be for resolution. Sarah's case proceeded through required waiting periods, discovery phases, and preliminary hearings that seemed designed to test her patience. Her attorney reminded her that this deliberate pace actually worked in her favor, giving their forensic team more time to uncover assets and building a more comprehensive case. Meanwhile, her husband's attorney attempted various delay tactics, claiming incomplete information and requesting extensions. Each maneuver revealed something about his deteriorating position. Rather than viewing these delays as frustrations, Sarah began seeing them as confirmation that their strategy was working. 7 months after her husband's disappearance, their case reached a critical juncture. His attorney approached with a settlement offer significantly below what they had documented as her rightful share. The proposal came with confidentiality clauses and minimal admission of wrongdoing. Sarah's legal team recognized this as a positive development, the first acknowledgement that her husband was feeling pressure, but advised against accepting such inadequate terms. They countered with a comprehensive proposal based on their forensic accounting, including punitive provisions for the documented fraud. The negotiation became a test of resolve, with Sarah holding firm despite financial pressures that made immediate settlement tempting. Behind the scenes, authorities had become interested in aspects of her husband's financial maneuvering that potentially violated banking regulations. The forensic evidence Sarah had compiled became valuable to investigators examining patterns that extended beyond her specific situation. Her attorney helped her navigate cooperation with these investigations while protecting her interests. This additional pressure point created leverage in the ongoing settlement negotiations. Her husband, now facing scrutiny from multiple directions, began making more substantial offers. Still, Sarah maintained her position, guided by professionals who understood both the legal and financial implications of various settlement structures. The breakthrough came unexpectedly during a scheduled conference between attorneys. Sarah's husband had apparently realized that continuing to fight would likely result in worse outcomes as more evidence accumulated. His attorney presented a revised offer addressing most of their demands, including restoration of funds, compensation for legal expenses, and transfer of property interests. While not a complete victory, the settlement represented substantial recovery of what had been taken. More importantly, it would end the consuming legal battle and allow Sarah to fully focus on her future. After consulting with her advisors, she decided to accept, recognizing that perfect justice might cost more than it was worth in time and emotional energy. Recovery from financial betrayal extends beyond legal settlements into rebuilding your relationship with security and trust. With legal matters largely resolved, Sarah faced the challenge of what to do with her settlement. Rather than making immediate decisions, she placed funds in secure, accessible accounts while developing a comprehensive financial plan. She interviewed multiple financial advisors, this time with clear understanding of their recommendations and strategies. She established relationships with several professionals rather than concentrating all financial matters with a single person. This diversified approach wasn't based on distrust of any specific advisor, but on her new philosophy of distributed security. Sarah's business continued growing beyond her expectations, evolving from a necessity during crisis to a genuine passion. She expanded into a larger location, hiring staff who shared her vision for exceptional customer experiences. The shop that had once been her sanctuary became a community gathering place, known for its welcoming atmosphere. She implemented financial systems with appropriate checks and balances, ensuring transparency while maintaining operational efficiency. When approached about potential investment partnerships, she conducted thorough due diligence regardless of who made the introduction. This careful approach occasionally cost her opportunities, but protected her from repeating past vulnerabilities. The emotional aftermath of betrayal lingered longer than Sarah expected, surfacing in surprising ways even after practical matters were resolved. She noticed hesitation when forming new friendships, analyzing motives and inconsistencies with heightened awareness. Social situations sometimes triggered unexpected anxiety, particularly when conversations turned to relationships or financial partnerships. Her therapist helped her distinguish between healthy caution and hypervigilance, developing tools to assess situations realistically without projecting past betrayals onto present circumstances. Gradually, she found balance between protective awareness and openness to new connections, recognizing that excessive guardedness would create its own form of limitation. Sarah's experience became valuable to others facing similar situations. She occasionally shared her story in controlled settings like support groups or educational workshops on financial security. Without revealing personally identifying details, she outlined the warning signs she had missed and the recovery strategies that proved most effective. Her perspective emphasized empowerment rather than victimhood, focusing on practical steps others could take to protect themselves. Financial institutions invited her to speak about documentation practices that could help others avoid or recover from similar situations. These speaking opportunities transformed her painful experience into something constructive, a way to prevent others from facing what she had endured. The final chapter of financial recovery involves creating systems that balance protection with possibility. 2 years after her husband's devastating text message, Sarah had established a new normal that incorporated both security measures and space for growth. Her financial structure included regular reviews with multiple professionals, each bringing different expertise to her increasingly complex portfolio. She maintained her documentation habits, but with updated digital security protocols protecting sensitive information. Regular financial health assessments helped identify both vulnerabilities and opportunities, ensuring her recovery remained sustainable and progressive rather than merely defensive. Sarah's professional identity evolved beyond her specific business to include advocacy for financial transparency and education. She collaborated with a nonprofit organization developing financial literacy programs for women in transition, whether from relationships, careers, or other life changes. These programs emphasize practical skills like documentation, account monitoring, and indicator recognition rather than fear-based messaging. Her contributions focused on creating resources she wished had been available during her own crisis. This work connected her with policy advocates addressing systemic issues in financial protection, allowing her to influence broader changes while helping individuals navigate current realities. Personal transformation remained Sarah's most significant achievement through this journey. The woman who had once trusted completely now practiced informed confidence, making decisions based on verified information while remaining open to appropriate collaboration. She developed nuanced understanding of balance points between skepticism and opportunity, independence and partnership, caution and growth. These weren't compromises but integrations of seemingly opposing approaches, each valuable in specific contexts. Friends observed changes in how she carried herself, a grounded certainty that came from having faced catastrophic betrayal, and not just survived but transcended it. The text message that was meant to end everything had instead initiated profound reinvention. Sarah occasionally reflected on how different her life would be had her husband never betrayed her. While she would never have chosen this painful path, she recognized that navigating it had revealed capabilities and created opportunities that might otherwise have remained dormant. The comprehensive records that had initially protected her financially had ultimately preserved something more valuable: her agency and future potential. What began as documentation of transactions became documentation of transformation, evidence of resilience that would inform every aspect of her life moving forward. You've just witnessed an extraordinary journey of resilience and strategic thinking in the face of devastating betrayal. Think about how Sarah's story might apply to your own life, not just in relationships, but in any situation where preparation meets opportunity. Have you established your own systems of protection and documentation? Are you building the knowledge and skills you'd need to navigate unexpected challenges? The power of preparation cannot be overstated. Whether it's keeping records, developing diverse skills, or building supportive networks, these investments in yourself create resilience long before you need it. Consider starting today with simple steps like organizing important documents or learning one new financial concept each week. Remember that strength often develops quietly in the background, revealed only when tested by circumstances. Your own story of transformation is waiting to be written. Perhaps it won't involve financial betrayal, but life inevitably presents challenges that test our foundations. Will you be caught unprepared? Or will you have already laid the groundwork for your comeback? The choice belongs to you, and it's made through small, consistent actions starting right now. Every document saved, skill learned, and relationship nurtured becomes part of your personal resilience strategy. If this story resonated with you, there's so much more to explore together on this journey of preparation and personal power. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications to ensure you never miss our upcoming content on financial protection, relationship wisdom, and strategic living. Join our community of forward-thinking individuals who understand that true security comes through knowledge, preparation, and the courage to face difficult truths. Your future self will thank you for the investment you make today.